I believe it's crucial that we find a path towards pricing carbon and end up speaking in unison. If we don't, and we have to appease everybody with differing opinions, we can end up in the situation where our opponents and people who doubt global warming and doubt that we have to do something and are seeking the economic easy path, they're going to see us as fractious.
We need to elect new candidates and re-elect incumbents to support pricing carbon. In comments made by Ralph Nader at a different college campus several years ago, he said, "You must turn on to politics or politics will turn on you."
What if we could come together as a nation democratically?
By letting our representatives know this is it. The greatest threat of our generation can no longer be ignored.
Without harsh consequences.
And if we don't get it right here at home, in the United States,
we cannot help lead other nations in the right direction.
The three principles that we have distilled down, what is absolutely essential, and the economists and pretty much everybody who's looked at this will tell you that the first thing, the most important thing, is to put a price on CO2 pollution so that alternatives, low carbon alternatives, have a chance to grow and replace the dirty fossil fuels, the dirty energy that is hurting our planet's climate and creating. I don't even like global warming. I go further. I won't go along with the scientists now who are calling it global climate disruption. I think that's a much more descriptive term. The second principle is returning revenue, and that can be done either through a dividend or a tax reduction to consumers. Encouraging substitution of the kind of energy sources that we want, the low carbon ones, and replacement, but we don't want the income effect. We do not want to hurt the economy or individual households with the price that we're imposing on carbon. And the third element is deliberative feedback. And that's a stabilizing idea, which means you actually adjust the policy as you go along.
What role do you see for the so-called RED program, in other words, carbon offsets to pay for standing forests that absorb carbon as a portion of the carbon tax or carbon payment?
In the proposal that we have, we're not actually trying to do anything with international mitigation efforts to absorb carbon, for example, through forestry programs. This is a very important complementary policy that has to be built into effective climate policy in general. And in fact, that's perhaps one of the more appealing elements of the cap and trade legislation if the offsets work. What's been found, though, is there's a lot of gaming going on with offsets. And in fact, I read recently that something like 60% of the offsets in the European Union system are they are a result of destruction of one chemical, which is a byproduct of manufacturing of a hydrofluorocarbon, which is a refrigerant. And the article in the Economist asked the question, are the Chinese making this refrigerant in order to get the credits to destroy its byproduct? And I thought it was a silly question, because if you look at the price of allowances of offsets that they're getting for destroying each pound of that HFC, and that product is something like 10,000 times as potent a greenhouse gas as CO2. So the credit you get for destroying, say, a ton of that is very, very large. The answer is obvious. Of course they're making that stuff in order to get the credits. Why else would you make it? The value as an offset is probably 10,000 times what it is as a refrigerant. So this is the problem with offsets, is they invite gaming. But that's not to diminish the importance of funding forestry projects. We believe those do need to be funded.